Let me say one thing before we start this list. I love all my cameras, just not equally, and that's why we're doing this list, but it still saddens me to give this camera last place, first place loser if you will. This is going to go to the 5D Classic. This is a camera from Canon. To put it in perspective, this was the early 2000s. This is when we were transitioning from film to digital. And if money wasn't an object, this was the cream of the crop. This is one of the cameras that you really would have been looking at. This is what all the YouTubers would have been talking about. Today, he really does pale in comparison. He's kind of, in a lot of ways, not up to snuff. That being said, he still does everything he was advertised to do 20-some years ago. If you put him in the right position, he will shoot incredible photos. That being said, a lot of the quality of lives just aren't there. You do see things like a joystick, but not a whole lot of custom buttons, really just that star button to customize. The battery life on this is okay, but it is a discontinued battery. You really don't see this anymore. I can't buy them from Canon anymore. This screen, even by the standards of that day, I do not want to believe they were high tech. It makes like any flip phone screen look HD by comparison. You were pretty much exclusively using the histogram to see how good you did with your photos on this camera. It's good enough, shoots photos. Look, if you need a full frame camera for a super budget, this really isn't bad. But all the cameras I own, if I was lucky enough to be in a beautiful situation, wanted to shoot a photo, this would want to be one of the last cameras I'd have. That being said, I still do go shoot with him intentionally sometimes just to mix it up. And what I do like to do is I will pair him with this Helios. It's a retro lens, which is not very sharp to begin with, so 12, 13 megapixels doesn't really break the bank there. And the autofocus sucks on here, but these retro lenses are all manual focus, so all of his shortcomings don't really matter, and I do just get to go shoot cool photos with him. Always can find a place for a tool. Unfortunately, as much as I love him, last place, Canon 5D Classic. Next two cameras I'm actually going to show you at the same time because it was a little bit of a hard decision. I want to walk you through my train of thought. I have the Olympus XA-2 and I have the Canon Sure Owl. These do the same thing. They're compact film cameras. These are perfect for shoving 35mm film in, putting it in your pocket, your clutch, your back pocket, your purse, or whatever you got. This can probably fit on your person. And if a spontaneous, beautiful moment pops off, you have a pretty good camera to shoot a photo. As long as it's not too dark. These do tend to struggle with that. But if we actually take a look, you will see the Olympus does a better job at being a compact camera. And it's a little less thick as well. But if we do put on the additional module here, I'm just juggling with my hands a little bit. This guy does go on here. He's a flash module. Personally, I never run it, but if you're really killer on that flash, you can bulk it up and carry that with you. The Canon, you don't get as much of a chance with that. They do have some very similar features. Both have a cover guard here for their front lens. Very simple. So it's protected no matter where you take it. Not weather shield, but screw it. They do a lot of the same things. They got a lens cover so you're protected, but you will start to see some differences, mainly in automation. So if you look on this, you're going to see you got 3 little eyeballs on there. That's for the autofocus system that was actually in this camera, as well as there's no crank. This is an auto-loading camera. It's going to shoot a photo. It's going to crank to the next shot. This is a little bit more manual on it, where you're going to have 3 focus zones, a close, medium, and far away, as well as there's a little crank right here when you need to spin the dial to load your film. It's really not a hassle. These focus zones are generous enough. I've never missed a shot. The autofocus, I haven't had this long enough. It hasn't messed up for me yet, but Lord knows it's only time. That being said, when push comes to shove, I am going to give it to the Olympus here. Wrong word. Going to give it to the Canon here just for simplicity of life. It is bigger, but it's not unwieldy for any of the pockets I put it in. And it's great knowing I have that autofocus. I don't even have to think. I pull it out of my pocket. I point it at the picture. The viewfinder is substantially larger. I don't know if we can, yeah, right there, you can kind of see me. Can we do the same with this one? It's probably going to be a little harder. Yeah, it's a little smaller of a viewfinder. So it's easier to pull this out, look through the thing really quick, shoot a photo. With the autofocus, I can just point and pray. And with the auto-loading film, I don't got to worry about cranking it. So if I'm wearing gloves or anything funny like that, I know it's fine. This is a great camera, to be honest with you. I carry both of them, usually, even at the same time. Usually I'll do black and white, and I'll do color in this one. That's how I live my life. Love them both, but that's the order. This one's better. Okay, so I'm going to show you 2 more cameras at the same time, and these are funny because they're not on the podium, but this was the hardest decision I had to make, and it's because they're actually opposite. They're not the same tool at all. They're both film cameras. If you can't tell, this actually has no screen on it. This is the AE-1. This is a famous film camera from Canon. This was like in their heyday of making film cameras. This is a standard for a lot of people. A lot of things you'll see, like the setting your ISO with a dial, cranking that, ISO, all that stuff. This is Canon's love letter to film at the end of film before they switched to digital completely. This is incredible in the fact that it shoots through EF glass, so you can get a lot of modern, beautiful lenses and shoot film through them. The autofocus and the firing rate, how it can actually spool the film automatically quite quickly. You can shoot wildlife, birds, elk, running, and it'll look really good on film. Personally, what they mean to me, what I shoot with the most, it comes down to the fact that I actually can manage to carry this camera with me quite a bit. If I am going out, have a coat, I can just kind of put it under the coat with the, I don't even know, hanger. And then if I have this is a lot more like shooting with a full frame modern camera where it's very intentional. The glass is really big. It's really eye-catching. People are like, he's pointing a freaking bazooka at me. I like this more for wildlife and nature stuff, which I just get to shoot more street just because of that's, I can shoot that while I'm going about my daily commute, where it has to be very intentional to be like, I'm going out to the wilderness today to shoot a photo. These are not on the podium because film's a pain in the ass. I'll just, very simply, if I were to recommend to someone to start getting into photography, it wouldn't be film. If you can fall in love with scanning your film, waiting weeks for it to develop, stupid errors that you can't see because you can't check your film at the time, it's incredible. It's an enthusiast field at this point with the price and all that. These are some of my most fun cameras, and I love to shoot it though. And if you are, looking for a new avenue of photography to branch into, this is so much fun. Give it a try. But these don't get to be on the podium because as far as how useful they are to me, it's for a lot of superficial reasons that I love the craft, and not that these are actually the best tools to capture the moment in the most beautiful way. It's unfair because I just got this. I haven't even gotten a full roll through it. And this, I have shot some of my favorite photos I've ever shot. So the order is definitely going to go like this, AE-1 over the EOS 1V. But if you are looking to get into film, check it out. It's really fun. All right, on to the next. Okay, next up on the list was actually a really easy one. We're on the podium, third place. This is the Canon. Actually, I want to tell you, this looks like every camera you've probably seen on this list. It looks like the camera you might even own. It's a camera. Oh, it's a Canon. You can probably tell that, but it probably looks like just about every camera you've seen or even looks like on this list. Apologize for that. The Canon, it won't focus, Canon 80D. I have a soft spot for this camera. I worked my first job. I was at Raising Cane's. Thank you very much, Raising Cane's. I worked tirelessly. This is the only camera that I own that I actually bought new. Everything else I bought used, but I bought this new when it first came out, and I was so excited. I was all into photography, and I still love it. It's still a lot of fun to shoot with, and I shoot with it actually just as much as the other two cameras above here. We're getting to the range where all these cameras should be incredible. If you put this camera in the right spot, it should shoot an incredible photo. But its value to me actually is to be a spin-off of the other cameras I put in my bag, because my other cameras are full frame. This is a crop sensor. A lot of people would turn their nose up at that and say, oh, that's so gross. It's incredible if you actually own full frame gear too, because your lenses for the full frame, like right now, this is a 70-200. It's not that much reach on a full frame camera. I put this on here. Now it's like a 110 to a 3 something. Don't check my math. I'm sure I'm right. This is incredible because any lens that you're using for your other camera, you can put on there and you're getting a completely different creative opportunity to shoot with different focal lengths. And yes, you're not getting the full f-stop and your sensor's not as big. I don't care. I've shot some of my best photos with this camera. I love it dearly. It's weather sealed. This was like the first Canon camera to have this flip out screen. This flip out screen will probably be why I switched to mirrorless one day. It's great. I love it. That's all I gotta say. Could heavily recommend if you're in the field for a 6-year-old APC prosumer camera. Apologies for the drop in quality. I did have to pull that camera off to film this bit, so it should tell you something about how much I like it. Those cameras are, and if you can't see, this is the EOS R, and this is the 5D Mark IV. This was the tail end of the DSLR. This was the intro to the mirrorless camera. This is a little bit newer. I didn't buy any of these when these came out. I got both of these used, same with the lenses on them. These are definitely both my workhorse cameras. These are the ones I use the most. Definitely a little bit more for video, and definitely this one a little bit more for photo. But when it comes down to preference time, it's really just the battle of mirrorless versus DSLR. And I'm going to break the news to you. I prefer DSLRs just a little bit. And please, 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 just let me explain myself. It's probably all bad takes because it's just preference. I will say, first off, it's also not fair. I would argue that they're not even in the same exact product field what the EOS R 5 or 8 or whatever we're at now. This was what was supposed to replace this. This was a little bit lower as far as what consumer was intended for this camera, but these do have the same sensor. They shoot so close to identical quality. It's just down to feel and preference. And I really, really, really like the joystick. I have tried all the things with this, like turning my, the zones off on the screen. I just don't like the touchscreen, and my nose bumps it, and it's fine. It's never that bad. But when I switch to mirrorless, I'm going to get one with a joystick. And on top of that, I don't know, something about an electronic viewfinder, it just doesn't feel as good. I really prefer looking through and actually seeing the real thing. And you know what? With some of the improvements that are coming, I'm sure I will stop caring eventually because it's getting pretty ridiculous how good they're getting. There's other small stuff that personally I've never cared about, like with the 5D, you get multiple card slots. I've only ever put one card in. I've never had an issue. Knock on wood. I'm sure I should care, the only time I actually do is when I shoot weddings, and I totally get that because I'm not explaining to a bride she lost her photos. But this and the 80D and actually every other digital camera I have is one card. It's been great. Honestly, it doesn't bother me that much. Typically, the way I run this is I'll put my wide angle on the EOS R. The ability to autofocus and shoot with speed is just a hair slower on this, and with the wide angle, you really don't need autofocus to be as quick. And 5D, with being my favorite camera, I typically run this with the 24-70. This is just my go-to package for most of my photos. Some of the best photos I've taken in the last couple of years have been with this camera. Not to mention, this has been the camera I wanted since I started photography, and now that I have it, I feel like there should be no reason I can't accomplish everything I always thought I could accomplish if I just had this thing. So I have no excuses owning this. I shoot with all my cameras a lot, actually, but this is my go-to. And this is arguably a better tool, but I prefer this one. It's what I carry when I'm being really serious about shooting photos. I'm here to shoot photos. And I don't even have any RF class. I actually shoot everything through the converter. It's great. But I know this is the boring list. This is where we get into, these are cameras that anyone should be happy to own. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to own them, get to shoot photos on these. If a beautiful moment is going down and it's right next to me, I hope this is the one in my hands, but I'm definitely not mad if this one is either. They're both fun. I can recommend both if you find a good deal. Just to recap our list here for you at the end. Unfortunately, Canon 5D Classic had to come in last place, 8th place here. We had the Olympus being at 7th, and the Canon Sure shot just barely eking it out at 6th. Again, this was the hardest determination of the whole video. EOS 1V, Canon AE-1, both film cameras. If you ask me in a week, I might even switch these. That being said, film is a pain in the butt. As much as I love it, I love shooting it. It does not compare to digital. It's a better tool. 3rd place really deserves it. The 80D crop sensors are great. Really, they are great for manipulating lenses, so you get completely different focal lengths with all these different lenses. EOS R here, this is a great camera. I do really like the flip out screen on it, and I have gotten more used to EF. The viewfinder as well as the video on here is incredible. But my favorite is the Canon 5D Mark IV. It's my favorite camera. This is my list as of 2024. We'll see if this changes, but tell me what you think. What cameras do you like to carry? And if you thought that was cool, you should see what these cameras have done. My full portfolio is on my website, as well as some prints, jmizar.com. There'll be a link right there to click on. If you like this video, subscribe. Check out more from me down the road. Thanks.